Good morning, colleagues. Can we all stand up to observe a moment of silent prayer and meditation? Thank you. We may all be seated. Let me take this opportunity to greet our Honorable Premier, members of the Executive Council, presiding officers, the Chief Whip, leaders of political parties, members of the Provincial Legislature, the citizens of Gauteng. Good morning. Today we have only received 2 apologies. One from Honorable Mufama, who is not well, and we wish her a speedy recovery. The second one is Honorable Ghana, who is undertaking a charity run, and we wish him all the best for today. Those are the only apologies that we have received. Honorable members, in terms of announcement, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the Mure and the Lasindo family to thank all members for your kind support to both families when they lost their loved ones. And all the members who are still sick, we wish them a speedy recovery, and our deepest condolences to all those who have lost their families. Want to urge and encourage all members to take their jab. I know that the youngest member is Honorable Fasiha, but most of us are above the age where we can go and take our jabs. Can we lead by example? But what we are also requesting is that, I know I had a discussion with the Chief Whip to say, if we can get your photos, especially those that will still go and get their vaccination, but also the second one, so that we can put it in our website as a sign of encouraging all citizens to take a vaccination. The reason being that in our social media, there's a lot of negativity around people vaccinating. And I'm sure it has been proven through science that when you take a vaccination, the chances of you dying are very slim. So let's encourage you, if you happen to, I know that I'm taking my second one on the 17th, next week, Monday. So I will post I will send the photo to the team so that it could be in our website. Thank you very much. It is important that we should actually ensure that we protect ourselves, but also protect those that are close to us. Thank you, members. In terms of Rule 79, subsection 1, MEC statements, we have not received any request. In terms of Rule 81, subsection 1, member statement by members, we have a request from Honorable Makakula. Honorable Makakula.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not well. I'm feverish. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the 9th of August 2021, marked the 65th anniversary of the 1966 Women's March to Union Building. 65 years ago, thousands of women marched to the Union Building in Pretoria protesting past laws which required African people to carry a document on them when entering white areas to prove that they were allowed in those areas. These laws were discriminating against many of the citizens of this country. The women of that generation have braved all the way to pave a future for generation to come. This was also a significant stride in the fight against Black oppression and a proof that women were playing a significant role in the political arena. Madam Speaker, the theme for this year is the year of Mem Charlotte Maxeke, realizing women's rights. Our country has come a long way in realizing women's rights through fighting gender discrimination. And today we have different pieces of legislation protecting women against any form of oppression. While we celebrate the strides and celebrate the significant progress made, more still needs to be done, particularly at a time when women and children continue to be victims of gender-based violence. The ANC's government's vision on the Gauteng we want to see is very clearly articulated in the Growing Gauteng Together 2030. The ANC wants to see a Gauteng where women enjoy their rights, free from all forms of patriarchy, hence the commitment to combat gender-based violence. May we realize sooner than later that the women of this country need to unite against racial, religious, and political divide, because patriarchy knows no boundaries. I thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Badenhorst.
Good morning, Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity. Nelson Mandela said, freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression. 27 years later, although strides have been made with the adoption of the liberal legal and regulatory frameworks, women are not free from oppression. It is 27 years later, and women are still battling the same oppression, bordering on patriarchal lines, discrimination and inequality within our societies. Every year in August, our country commemorates Women's Month, in which we remember the more than 20,000 women who marched to the union buildings in protest of the extension of the past laws to women on August the 9th, 1956. In commemorating these women, let's remember to challenge the set systems that remain anti-women. We are told that you strike a woman, you strike a rock. And these are the slogans we preach daily to patronize women in being strong until they explode and break down and break everything around them. This Women's Month, let's preach the importance of self-love and love for one another. Let's preach mental health awareness. Let's preach economic emancipation. Let's preach land and farming. Let's preach the ideal state and the role of the policing forum we wish to see. Let's pick strategies around the GBV pandemic that has become so cruel, even towards the old, the young, and the fragile. Within societies, let's preach equality. This Women's Month, let's preach against about misogyny and patriarchy, but preach towards the building of so many broken homes and societies that are drowning in poverty, abuse, drugs, and many more ills. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Shackleton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I received a report from DA Soshanguve PR Councillor Gert Pretorius, who is also the chair of chairs in the City Council, that a gentleman in Soshanguve was threatening to kill DA members. I reported this to the Provincial Police Commissioner and supplied the name and address of said individual. The police arrested him. However, they declined to prosecute him. And when I asked why, the answer was that there was no physical contact between the parties. Madam Speaker, in South African criminal law, a threat of assault carries the same penalties as the crime of assault itself. The right to association, which extends itself to the freedom to choose a political party free from violence and intimidation, is enshrined in our Constitution. It cannot be that this type of criminality is deemed as unimportant or not of a serious nature. To the contrary, political freedom is a paramount right. With the local government elections on the horizon, and in light of the recent destruction and looting in this province, now more than ever should this right be upheld and justice swift. I call on this House to ensure that political intimidation is regarded as the serious offense that it is, and that SAPS treats these threats with the severity they deserve. I thank you.
That concludes a member statement. I'm now going to call upon the Honorable Chief Whip to present a motion without notice in terms of Rule 120. Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I, Member M. Khumalo, Chief Whip, hereby table the following motion in terms of Rule 121, read together with Rule 117 as follows. Noting that the Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development Portfolio Committee's report on the final mandate for the National Forest, AB, and the Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development Portfolio Committee report on the final mandate for the National Environmental Management Laws are programmed for the sitting of the 10th of August 2021. Further noting that the final mandate have not yet been finalized, therefore request that the House resolve to remove the Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development Portfolio Committee's report on the final mandate for the National Forest, to remove the Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development Portfolio Committee report on the final mandate for the National Environment Management Laws from the orders of today. I so move. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Any seconder?
I second. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Moriarty. I now put a question. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those not in favor say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted by the House. I now want to call upon any member who wants to give notice of a motion in terms of Rule 121. There is none. Thank you very much. We are now going to deal with the Premier's question time in terms of Rule 128, starting with Honorable Ramulifo to the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Regarding the unrest and looting in Gauteng, will the Premier please indicate how many shopping malls or establishments were targeted by the unrest and looting? Please indicate the implication of this for the province. 2, how many shopping malls were targeted and are near the police station? Please indicate whether this is a sign that there is weak intelligence and lack of leadership from law enforcement agencies. 3, why police stations near impacted areas failed to act while looting was taking place. 4, why law enforcement agencies only launched a visible campaign after the incidents by going house to house confiscating stolen goods. And 5, what are the lessons learned by law enforcement agencies and the provincial government from xenophobic attacks, riots, and looting in the province? Thanks, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like to convey my greetings to you, Madam Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the Chief Whip, and all leaders of political parties and honorable members. And I would like to wish the women of our province a happy Women's Month, and to say that the struggle for gender equality and women's emancipation continues in our province, and we will not rest until women are free. For as long as women are not free, there can be no freedom to really talk about. With regard to the question raised by Honorable Ramulifo, thank you very much, Honorable Ramulifo, for the question. related to the looting and unrest, and the full impact of that is something we are still assessing. Let me first say that it is important to start by saying that as far as we are concerned, as the provincial government in Gauteng province, having worked through out the province and worked with state security agencies and law enforcement agencies, from local government agencies up to national government agencies, the unrest and the looting, as well as the violence, were very coordinated. In the run-up to that, there were a lot of information shared, not just by those in the law enforcement and security agencies, but citizens, ordinary citizens shared lots of information with us, especially myself and MEC Faith Mazibuko, and we passed that information every time we received information. We passed that information to the law enforcement agencies to act on it. A lot of times was before things could happen, and we passed that information to the police. There is no doubt, and this is something that has been expressed from the president up to ourselves in the province, and I have said this when I met with more than 300 NGOs and when I met with the CEOs of large companies in our province, and when I met with MEC Tau, also with the small business owners. I've also made it clear that there was a complete failure by the state law enforcement and security agencies. And I think it's important here to say the totality of the law enforcement and security agencies, because to point the weakness in one area, in one agency, whether it's the police or the intelligence, is to fail to understand the state that we just emerging from. There was a real risk. And the reason we keep saying this was coordinated is because this information was forwarded to us in many areas. Proactive action could have prevented this from happening. The police have already explained publicly, as well as to the portfolio committee of community safety in our province. But as far as we are concerned, as the political leadership of the province, there is no doubt that the response of our law enforcement agencies and security agencies was not equal to the challenge and to the task. So saying that this was coordinated, so it was not spontaneous, it was not a spontaneous activity, it was coordinated, it was properly planned, and we were able to identify the various multi-layered dimensions of this, and part of that seems to clearly have been an orchestrated program. The other is the opportunism of the criminal element, and we need to understand all those areas of both the orchestration, and the orchestration in our view was meant at undermining the democratic state as well as the leadership of the state. And the criminal element is always about you seizing the opportunity. And that the criminal element showed up in many areas, whether it's in the area of the looting of a very well organized looting of the ATMs in all the areas that were affected, very well orchestrated looting of the ATMs. We always say that in the course of that process, of course, there were ordinary people, men and women, a lot of young people in our townships who are unemployed, a lot of people in our communities who got to these malls and engaged in looting. And when you look at even the character of that, what is it that outside what is the core criminal element and the orchestrated, well-organized machinery. Outside that is ordinary people who looted food. A lot of that was just about food. And yes, a bit of more, others who looted what would be luxury goods. So the malls that there are 500 shopping centers in Gauteng province. 500 includes in the townships, in the urban centers of our province. So there are 500 shopping centers. Those that were looted and significantly affected by this, and some of them substantially damaged, were 85. 30 of this 85 would have been what we strictly call malls, because there are malls and then there are shopping centers. 30 of them were in the malls, and 85 includes the shopping centers. And these shopping centers are not just shopping centers owned by corporates, but there are also shopping centers and shopping malls owned and operated by small and medium-sized businesses in the townships, and some of them, a substantial number of them, essentially only 30 of them are the malls that are your mega malls that are owned, built and owned by people who are not living in the townships. But another 55 of them are essentially small shopping centers that are in our townships that were looted and destroyed. And that includes some of the businesses that operate not in the malls per se, but closer to the malls, including the spaza shops. So far, out of those 85 shopping malls affected, the arrests that were affected are now 1,947 people who were arrested. There are 79 people who passed on under different conditions, different set of circumstances. 79 people passed on during this incident. May their souls rest in peace. Some of them are people who, it includes a Metro Police officer who was shot at, because in some areas there was the use to show that this was not just looting. It was not just about looting. There was an armed response in some areas, especially in some of the areas in Ekurhuleni, in Vosloorus and in Katoras, in Katlehong. There was a real use of live ammunition against the law enforcement agencies. And a lot of other people who also died, those who died during the stampede in some of the areas like in Soweto and in Ekurhuleni. So the damage to the economy has been quite severe. The preliminary calculation is that 3.5 billion rands of losses have been suffered by businesses, both small and big business, but we're still calculating, particularly the informal sector that are not necessarily insured. Those ones we're still calculating what the cost would be. 14,500 jobs have been affected. So if you're asking about the implications for the province, jobs have been affected, the economy has been affected, but people have died. As we say, 79 people have died. Amongst these are people who are breadwinners, and families have suffered severely, and businesses have suffered severely as a result of this orchestrated and well-organized looting. But the looting also exposed the structural fault lines of our province, and one of those is really the breakdown of social cohesion, the increases since the advent of COVID-19, increased levels of poverty and increased levels of hunger. And when we interacted with many of community members around the areas that were looted, people who were saying they stood up to say that looting mustn't take place, and they defended the businesses around their area. Many of them said, even though we didn't loot, we are affected by hunger. we are affected by increasing levels of vulnerability, and those who lost jobs during COVID-19. We know we lost over 600,000 jobs during COVID-19. So there are various dimensions to this. As we say, the failure of the security agencies to deal with what was clearly pre-planned, well orchestrated, organized activities to sabotage and severely undermine our democratic order, but also a slow response. And that takes me to the next set of questions. Even around the areas, the malls that were much closer to the police station, particularly our police were not able to respond. And we have been able to engage with the police, Honorable Ramdi, for around the areas that were closer, much closer to the police stations. That's the malls around Dobsonville, Jabulani, Meadowlands, Protein Lane, Deep Kloof, Kliptown, Vosloorus, the malls that were much, much closer to the police station. We also engaged with the police. And one of the sad stories, and our police admitted this, was that in general, the police are not very well prepared to deal with public order policing. So you have a public order policing unit, 300 of them were deployed to KwaZulu-Natal coming out of our province. And ordinarily outside that public order policing unit team that deals with protests, that deals with public unrest, outside that, the police, most of our police in our police stations are not trained to deal with public order policing. It's a sad story, but it is true. And when we visited, particularly the police at at Meadowlands police station, that just adjacent to fire, well, the police were literally at pains to explain that they were overwhelmed by the people who were looting around there, and that they were not able to deal with that. So that's one of the critical issues that we are dealing with. But also there was a very overall weak response. There were delays, significant delays in the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, where we had already indicated by Sunday. You remember in Gauteng province, the looting, essentially the violence started on the 10th of July, that was on Saturday night, and then running through Sunday during the day, and then particularly Monday, what was called as the shutdown Gauteng. And in all those areas, we had asked for the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, because the police did say to us they are not coping, especially once we got to Sunday evening. It was clear that the police needs reinforcement, and here we include Metro Police as well as the South African Police Service. And we're saying here, and this, I have made this public, that we have been extremely unhappy with the failure of our law enforcement and security agencies to preempt and respond adequately. Responding adequately does not mean killing people, because it is our view that if the police would have reacted in any way that would have led to the killing of people, it would have fed into what possibly the orchestrators and organizers of this would have wanted. So the police, that's why public order policing is important. Effective policing does not necessarily mean using live ammunition against people who are not armed. And that's an important thing, that our law enforcement agencies can do effective policing, can ensure that there's proper crowd control without necessarily using live ammunition. And in that sense, we actually commend the police that they were not tempted to use live ammunition in many instances. We We may have 1 or 2 occasions where there would have been a complaint about police, but generally the police didn't do that. But it still does not mean they responded properly. They didn't respond adequately, because in many instances, communities had to go and organize themselves to defend the businesses. So there is no doubt, Honorable Ramuri, for that there was significant failure by law enforcement agencies, and this is a matter that has been acknowledged publicly by ourselves and the president, and this is a matter that is being dealt with effectively, especially to ensure, firstly, that our country has got a proper national security strategy. It is important. National security strategy is about issues that affect communities, domestic security, but also security threats that may be coming from outside the country, and the role of all agencies, from intelligence to police to the National Defense Force, with regard to protecting our country from threats outside our country, as well as criminality and any other threats. But it is also important that part of our comprehensive response is not just a security response. It is also a response to deepen social cohesion, address the underlying problems of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, so that the many young people who often find themselves participating in violent protest, but also participating in looting, the basis, the grounds for that is actually dealt with. So this can never be a justification for looting, but an important thing to understand. Why would so many people participate, including, as we said, the many women whose participation in looting was just about to go for food and clothing for children, which also exposed the desperate conditions under which a lot of our people, especially as a result of the impact of COVID-19. But law enforcement agencies must do their work. So you ask a question, why did law enforcement agencies only respond more effectively afterwards, including in undertaking the operation to retrieve confiscate the stolen goods? We have already made the point that there was a failure. There's no reasonable person who can say that the response of the law enforcement agencies and the security agencies was adequate. And I'm saying there's no reasonable. Yes, we saw that they were able to shape up later, and including particularly enhancing the capacity of the law enforcement agencies here in our province, getting public order policing back, reinforcing with the South African National Defense Force. There can be a lot of criticism. I've listened to that criticism about confiscation of stolen goods, but it really depends. Law enforcement agencies must always do their work. And they mustn't do their work based on what the politicians are saying. They must do their work based on what the law says. Because if they were to listen to what we say and they are not guided by the law, tomorrow they are going to do other things we don't like. The law enforcement agencies must be guided by the law. If they have to confiscate goods, it must be because they are guided by the law. If they have to arrest someone, it must not be because they are told by a politician or politicians to arrest people. It must be because they have evidence. They are guided by the law, and that's what I really want to emphasize, because sometimes the police get flagged. When they do their work in accordance with the law, they get attacked. When they don't do their work, they get attacked. So I would really warn members of the legislature to say that we should allow the law enforcement agencies to do their work guided by the law. And we at a political level, including this House and the executives, can always set frameworks that say, so what do you do with goods that I often see lots of confiscated goods? Sometimes it's goods, it's clothing, counterfeit goods that get confiscated and gets destroyed. And my heart sinks when I see counterfeit goods getting destroyed, my heart sinks when I see a lot of goods that get confiscated, stolen, getting destroyed. My heart sinks. The question is, do we have an enabling legal framework to ensure that we can guide? So what do you do when you confiscate stolen goods? We mustn't instruct the law enforcement agencies today because we feel this way. I think we must guide them. And from time to time, we will all have a different set of feelings there. But I would like to say that I think in our province, there was no destruction of factories. There was no destruction of infrastructure. And part of that reason is because particularly on the 13th, so Monday was extremely bad. On the Tuesday, the 13th, we had a more full and comprehensive response by different law enforcement agencies. And we also ensured that there's proper coordination between the private sector security companies and the public law enforcement and the security agencies of the state. What did this help us to do? I must say to you, the looting as well as this destruction was beginning to show signs of moving to the suburbs. If it wasn't stopped by rare enforcements with law enforcement, including by communities also, especially in the townships coming to the defense, if that didn't happen, we were going to see the shift of the looting and destruction going to the suburbs and then to the factories, like it happened in KwaZulu-Natal as we began to see the factories being attacked. So yes, it was delayed response, but the police, and that includes SAPS and Metro Police and the South African National Defence Force and the private security companies, started working together, and I want to emphasize that by the 13th, they were working together very well, coordinating, including monitoring early hours of the morning. From there up to this morning, they monitor early hours of the morning. They monitor with the choppers across the province to be able to see on a continuous basis whether there's a real threat that may have an impact on the people, security, and the economy of our province. That cooperation is something, Honorable Ramulifo, if you ask what have we learned from the riots and the looting, the cooperation between all law enforcement agencies, public law enforcement agencies, and the security agencies of the state and the private sector is something that we have strengthened extremely well. And as I say, every early hours of the morning, they give us reports to give us an indication of what is the situation on the ground in different areas right up to date to today. They haven't stopped doing that type of work. And we also want to emphasize that one of the important things is that the public order policing is something that needs to be strengthened. And these are the steps that can only be taken at a national level. Improvement around intelligence, as well as under what conditions can you deploy the South African National Defence Force. If you do it too late, it can become a problem. But of course, we all know that the soldiers are not used for public order policing. They are used only under exceptional circumstances. So the long and short of it is that our economy suffered. We have been meeting with businesses in our province to rebuild. We have a program to rebuild the township businesses. We also have been meeting with big corporates about a new model of how they should partner with small businesses, particularly township businesses, big and small, how they should operate in the townships so that our communities across the province in the townships, when they defend this businesses, is truly because these businesses are employing people in the townships, but also they are involving township businesses in their supply and value chains. And lastly, we have really been strengthening the coordination and the capacity of the security agencies in our province. A large part of it is a national function. Those things that have to do with provincial coordination will continue to receive our attention. So the looting and destruction has had a huge impact. We still want to say the law enforcement agencies must find the perpetrators of this destructive, severely destructive and damaging activities that took place in the perpetrators must be found. They must be brought to book. They must be brought before the law. But that's the job of law enforcement agencies. It's not, we can't find the perpetrators. They must be found by the law enforcement agencies. And we should continue to invest, particularly in the numbers. Police numbers in Gauteng, we only have 40,000 men and women in blue on the ground. We have 15.4 million people. 40,000 police officers are too few to police 15 million people in Gauteng. So the police numbers are really bad. In a province like ours, we need probably more than 200,000 police officers. We need more than 200 boots on the ground. But yes, but we also need to improve their resources. That is why we have bought police vehicles. I must tell you, Honorable Ramudi, for that the vehicles we bought for the police, this highway patrol vehicles, were very key in preventing the blockage of highways. The N3, the N4, the N17, the N12, the N14, the N1. The visibility of those units, the highway patrols, was quite handy. There was an attempt, particularly on I think it is on Sunday, Sunday the 11th of July. There was an attempt to block the N3 highway. The police arrived there very quickly, and they were able to clear that. So part of what happened in Gauteng is not just an accident. We could have been hardest hit. We have definitely been hit hard from the point of view of businesses and loss of life, but it could have been worse. An improvement of coordination of all these interventions will help. And that also means continuing to invest in programs to improve the quality of life of people, so that the criminal element is isolated as and the politically opportunistic elements are also isolated, who want to use people's conditions to undermine the democratic order that we have in our country today. So that's my comprehensive response to the looting and unrest, Honorable Ramudi. So it's not just a policing question. It has got many dimensions that we must all deal with.
Do we have any supplementary question or short remark, Honorable Ramudi?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Speaker. Yeah, indeed, I did listen to what the Premier has been saying, but I just issue of emphasis, especially with regard to the cooperation aspect, that as much as we have noticed the looting and the unrest, there's still ongoing looting, which is focusing on, okay, one will say public infrastructure. One would give examples of our schools. I just want to urge the Premier to also consider that when you engage with other partners, especially the your law enforcement agencies, especially focusing on the investigative unit. You can look at the number of schools which were also targeted, even in the province, that they were also targeted, but this is ongoing. Every school holidays we've got the same problems. And I'm of the view that if we can engage and start to target, those criminals or perpetrators, but you can only do that through prevention rather than proactive measures. Reactive measures. So I want you to engage with other, partners to look at that aspect going forward, so that we don't get caught off guard while we know that these things are ongoing in certain areas. They might be at a small scale, not once, but I want you to engage law enforcement agencies to look at these matters. Otherwise, also urge you to drive a campaign from the provincial government perspective so that those law-abiding citizens, they continue to take ownership of facilities or assets which then benefit them. We have noticed after the incidents that there were many South Africans who were saying what happened was wrong, but I think they also need leadership from government to show them that, yes, share with us whatever you hear in your community so that we become, proactive rather than reactive when the incident has occurred. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable MPC.
No, thanks, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to ask the Premier about the private security companies that were employed by these malls. Has our government engaged with those securities? If so, what kind of security plans do we have as a province working together with the private security? And just a follow-up on what Member Ramulifo raised is the issue of our school security during this difficult period. We know that Gauteng were targeted as well because of the equipment that we're installing in our schools for learning and teaching. Are we going to strengthen our security in our schools to make sure that our schools are safe without being worried that they'll be destroyed if there's anything that will happen in terms of unrest? Thank you very much.
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's Member Alberts here. My hand is up and I see Honorable Cobus Hoffman's hand is also up for follow-up questions. Thank you.
Okay, let me allow you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a follow-up remark and question in terms of Rule 138.9. I concur with the previous speakers. I think what we need to do, Premier, is to look at or to liaise with the provincial police and do a proper audit on them ourselves in terms of what their needs are. What resources don't they have available? What training don't they have available? What do they need? And then we can look from government side and even perhaps legislative side how we can try and resolve those issues. I've heard a story, I'm not sure if it's true, that more than half of the vehicles of the police are not operational. Now that's a huge problem in itself. So we need to tackle these very practical issues first. So I want to ask you whether we can follow up with the police and try to arrange some kind of audit of information of needs that we can assist with. That's the first point. We know there are many good police officers out there, but they are not properly resourced and sometimes not properly trained either. So we will assist.
It's a short remark. It's only one or a question. It can be more
That's
than
fine.
that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Honorable Hoffman.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Premier, just a question for clarity. Madam Speaker, the Premier alluded to 40,000 members within Gauteng. In the latest stats that I have received from MEC Masumbuku, only 24,467 are competent in handling their firearms. So as we look at these stats, it is problematic because out of those statistics we can see that we are totally under-resourced and totally incompetent in handling what just happened here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and to the members who asked follow-up questions. Certainly, Honorable Ramli, I agree with you that we should strengthen the efforts of partnership between our law enforcement agencies, including this is not just law enforcement, but all those community policing structures, the patrollers we have in our communities, their collaboration with law enforcement in protecting the infrastructure that we have. The public infrastructure is extremely important. And we know that every time the schools become the first target by the criminal element, it is absolutely important that we take action to protect our schools. I saw that even during this period, we have the number of schools affected in our province. And sometimes this doesn't happen just once. Even every holiday period, we come back. When the schools reopen, there have been schools that have been vandalized. This is something that we going to invest huge efforts and collaboration with the various institutions, including community organizations, to address. I am very glad that communities on the ground are already coming to the fore to take a stance, because the criminals come from our communities, and there's very interesting trends that the police, the people who vandalize our schools, are looking for particular type of equipment that we use in our schools. So this is something that the police have information on. In many areas, some of this stuff has been, the people arrested, the police have arrested people. They have a sense of the supply, when this stuff is stolen from our schools, where is it being sold? So public infrastructure also needs to be protected, including what we see as the vandalization and looting of public transport infrastructure. So I agree with you, Honorable Ramli, for that. The strategy here to enhance these partnerships and protect the infrastructure is something that our legislature would be interested to understand what the provincial government is doing. We have a program, and that program is about protecting public infrastructure and partnering with our communities to protect public infrastructure. But the truth is that, I mean, even after passing legislation to really punish those who are, crimes against infrastructure, even after that, we're still experiencing our infrastructure is still being targeted. We championed and pioneered this legislation to really punish crimes related to infrastructure. So we're mobilizing communities, and this partnership between our communities, law enforcement agencies is extremely important. And that, Honorable Mbisi, that includes, I just gave a report that in the province, we now work very closely with the private security companies that are lawfully accredited. I want to emphasize that, because we can't work with private security companies that are operating illegally. It is important that we ensure that there's a rule of law, even with the operations, even in the most desperate situation. We can't allow vigilantism. The murders that took place, we saw that murders that took place in Phoenix is something we must condemn. We can't allow that. And I think we worked extremely well in our province in many different communities under very difficult conditions, where the police numbers were just not adequate, where people came to the fore. We kept saying to them, do everything within the framework of the law, work with the law enforcement, don't take the law into your own hands. And you are not the law enforcement. You can't arrest people. You can stop crimes from being committed. You can stop looting, but we need the police to be there to be able to be the ones who take charge. We also worked with in a number of areas with the taxi industry, and so a lot of you would know that it is an industry where it is very easy that things can always get border on the extra legal. So even with them, just to make sure that we don't have a situation where anybody takes the law into their own hands. So I want to emphasize partnership, yes, with the private security companies and all sectors, communities organized, but vigilantism and taking the law into your own hand is something that we would continue to say it must not be allowed. Honorable Albert, you are right. I think this issue about auditing the capacity of the resources available to the police is a task that the portfolio committee of the legislature can undertake, working with our Department of Community Safety. Our Department of Community Safety, in line with our program for reducing crimes in the particular policing precinct and particular police stations, our program to address the shortages and the under-resourcing of the police is something we've been raising vigorously with the National Police Minister and the National Commission. As you know, policing is a national function. We in the provinces do oversight. We set policing priorities. We support the police, we work with them, but policing is a national function. We can provide additional support to the police. We can also be able to, at a political level, both as the legislature and the executive, we can also be able to argue and make a case why more resources must be given to the police. And I really think the immediate thing we should really do is that Gauteng needs significant increase in police numbers. It is no small issue, this issue that we over time, the replacement of those police who go on retirement or those who just leave the service has not been matching the growth of the population. And certainly we must invest in additional resources and training, including vehicles. The very reason we decided as the executive in our province to procure more vehicles for the police, although it's a national function, is because we know this problem that a lot of police vehicles take long. They take long at the government garage. That's a common problem in our province, and somewhat a common sense problem, that this number of police vehicles are needed on in the streets, visible to enhance resources. So I would like to say that our portfolio committee that is chaired by Honorable Governor and our Department of Community Safety can really work very closely together to address even issues around safety in our schools, safety, protection of our infrastructure, collaboration and deployment, harnessing all the resources we have. And I emphasize we have huge capabilities of policing, including the police cameras, not police cameras, private security company cameras that are operating around the malls. We have been working very closely as the province from a public law enforcement agencies in partnership with security companies. They've really been willing to share their capabilities with us, but the state needs to enforce its own capacity. In other words, we can't give the responsibility to the private security companies. We must increase police numbers. We must ensure that we increase police vehicles. We must ensure that our police are trained, particularly continuously with regard to issues of various types of crime, including the deployment of modern technology to prevent some of this crimes. We've been benefiting from some of these resources from some of the private sector companies. So, and I agree with you, Honorable Hoffman, that this under-resourcing, the shortage, the numbers, those things are the things that we need to address together. But I would like us as both the legislature and the executive to do what we can to support the police in our province. Both the local government, at the local government level, our metro police and the South African Police Service need the support of public representatives, and we must be their advocates so that those men and women who are really doing their best, and there are many, I saw them during this violence in the midst of COVID-19 third wave. They were really going all out there to face up to very dangerous situations, including at night. In many areas, they had to come face to face with people who were firing at them in many areas in the province this during the period of the unrest. And these men and women were really able to do what they can, but it is still the truth that it was not enough. The response was not adequate. And adequacy is not just by shooting at people with live ammunition. It's just preventing crime and criminality from happening with all the available resources and the capabilities, including reinforcement by the South African National Defence Force. So we will do that, but we will do that working with you as our legislature. Madam Speaker, I am done.
Thank you, Premier. We're now going to deal with questions for oral reply to the executive, starting with Honorable Ncube to MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development. Honorable Ncube.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and all the protocol observed. I greet you. With regards to the principle to buy local, as pronounced by the Honorable Premier, and as a mandate for all the departments, and given that the harsh realities of retrenchments, companies closing, grounding of flights imposed by the impact of corona pandemic, could the MEC please indicate, one, whether there is a strategy of establishing or supporting local companies that are innovative? If so, on which products and in which corridors? If not, why not? Has the department engaged the investors for the same purpose in the interest of creating jobs or local empowerment? And if so, please elaborate. If not, why not? Thank you very much.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable members, thank you very much, Member Ncube, for the question. The provincial government has established the Innovation Hub as part of the agencies that exist in the Department of Economic Development, and is a subsidiary of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. Through the Innovation Hub, we are supporting companies with a focus area on the bioeconomy, the green economy, and the digital economy, with a specific focus on smart industries and advanced manufacturing. Companies that meet the criteria are incubated for 3 to 5 years, and the incubation program supports companies in enterprise development, business development, skills development, access to funding, access to facilities and digital support, and also access to markets as part of its value-added services. Once companies are commercialized and are sustainable, they graduate from the program. The Innovation Hub has its presence in 10 townships as part of the EKASI Incubator Program, and these EKASI labs provide support to innovations that are taking place in the various historically black townships. The department has also developed the Gauteng Local Content and Production Framework, which will assist in supporting local manufacturers and enabling them to access markets. With regards to question 2, the products and services, as indicated, are focused on the bioeconomy, the green economy, and the digital economy. So certainly, I think the question 3 would have been responded to in terms of the programs that we indicated above. With regards to engaging investors, and I also took liberty, Madam Speaker, to elaborate on some of the more basic recent engagements that we've had that are beginning to yield partnerships. We have reached out to the Agricultural Development Agency, the Public-Private Growth Initiative, and the Consumer Goods Council, amongst others. And part of the discussions are to establish an action lab that would focus on township retail enterprises and ensuring access to markets for township-based enterprises. This initiative is intended to ensure that local products produced in communities are able to find access to the shop floors of the various retailers that are established in the townships. We've also engaged with SAPOA recently with regards to responding to the more recent challenges that the Premier referred to earlier. There are also individual private sector partners that we are engaging. These include AB InBev, McCain. We've made different levels of commitments about supporting us. There are also township-based enterprises, with the Katoras Retailers Association being one of the lead organizations that facilitating access to engagement and support for township-based enterprises, and through them, engagements have extended to other townships. I thought it's also important to indicate that we've engaged Toyota through the late Dr. Van Zyl, may his soul rest in peace, with an intention of establishing industries around the taxi economy, so to say, and they've shown appetite to work with us. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the Innovation Hub has a number of partnerships with various businesses, and through these endeavors, joint projects and initiatives identified to stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and in particular to support businesses. The Innovation Hub implements a graduate training program focusing on youth and ICT, where those completing the program are absorbed in companies and given full-time employment. And the absorption rate at this stage is standing at 85%. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ngube, do you have a supplementary question or a short remark?
No, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question, Honorable Ngube, to MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development.
Speaker. Madam Speaker.
What's your problem, Honorable Balinos?
I do have a follow-up question, please. My hand is raised.
And unfortunately, I've passed the question. We're going to the next
Speaker,
one.
Then, Speaker, this is not fair. This is really not fair, because my hand
But
was
Honorable
up.
Balinos, no, Honorable Balinos, please don't do that. You raised a hand. There was no hand before.
Speaker. This thing is a trend. Honorable
which rule are you talking on? Which rule are you talking on? Just talk.
Please.
That Freedom
Please.
Front Plus came in. Freedom Front
Honorable,
Honorable, and when it's EFF, you don't entertain us. It's not fair to us. Freedom Front Plus
you're making an assumption. It's not true.
The have already passed and you've already given on.
Honorable members, if you want me to be fair to me as well and the House, because you raise a hand, and if there's no hand and I pass, I can't go back. Please, honorable members, be wide awake for us to be able to work better. Honorable Ngobe?
I'm not asleep, Speaker. I'm wide awake.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. With regards to the revitalization of the township economy in Gauteng, could the MEC please indicate, one, has the department developed an implementable township revitalization strategy? Two, if so, how has the strategy been implemented in all the Gauteng corridors? Three, how many beneficiaries were women, youth, people with disabilities, and military veterans per corridor? Four, what are the current challenges? Five, does the department have a strategy to increase the pool of the participants? If so, how? And if not, why not? Thank you very much.
Let me see.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and Honorable Ngube. Yes, the department has developed an implementable township economic revitalization strategy with strategy focuses, amongst others, on financial support, business incubation, post-investment support, and business advice. Through the GP, we have developed programs that directly respond to the township economic revitalization strategy, and these include, amongst others, the Township Business Renewal Program, where grant funding for a maximum of 20,000 rand per qualifying SMME is deployed towards procurement of equipment. We also have a Cooperatives Assistance Program, which also disburses grant funding to a maximum of 15,000 rand. The GP has also been allocated 250.
Honorable MEC, Honorable MEC, there's noise where you are. I'm not sure what is disturbing you. We can't hear properly. I'm sure there are gadgets to where you are. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Speaker. I've removed the gadgets. I hope I'm audible now. The GP has been allocated 250 million rand to assist SMMEs with financing and is currently working on establishing partnerships with the private and public sector to best leverage the 250 million rand and ensure a greater number of SMMEs are assisted. The minimum leverage envisaged to be obtained from the 250 million rand is a 500 million rand partnership. Current partnership discussions have been initiated, and the most prominent of these is with the Industrial Development Corporation. We have also had their board approving the partnership with GP and the Gauteng provincial government broadly. We've also reached out to other partners, and in this process, a retail fund is being established and a commitment has been made by at least one private sector partner. We've also had approaches from Ubank. Together with the Black Business Council, we've come in with an intention of co-investing as part of leveraging the 250 million rand. And the province has adopted an economic rebuilding plan, taking into consideration the recent events of looting that took place in our townships. With regards to number of beneficiaries, I'll give the totals. They are covering all the corridors, but the list, Member Ngube, is available. Safe to say that we supported 295 women, 174 youth, 2 people with disabilities, and 1 military veteran institution. With regards to current challenges, we've noted, of course, that whilst leveraging on the 250 million rand and getting partners that have come on board, resources will always be a constraint. And it's something that we continue to work on to ensure that we can also leverage resources from other partners, both public and private. The 250 million rand will indeed go a long way in enabling us to deal with raising funds from other partners, and some have come without any conditions attached as part of grant funding initiatives to assist township economic renewal and development. One of the key areas we're focused on is also in building the institutional capability at the GEP whilst incubating some of their future programs in the various partnerships that we've already initiated. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Ncube, do you have any supplementary question?
Honorable Speaker, in thinking that I'll receive the responses from the MC and also the lists that he's saying it is available. Anyway, thank you very much.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Speaker. MEC, the innovation hubs are all over, except in Easters. Why is it that it seems like Easters people are non-existing? They don't need jobs. They don't need anything from economic development. Thank you.
Honorable Mpisi.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think just as a follow-up question, just to let me appreciate the response by the MEC. There's one thing that I think because of the strategy that the department has been rolling out on the revitalization, the township revitalization strategy. Just want to check, there's been a recent development in terms of the fiber rollout by Vumatel in our township, defacing our township in Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, and now in Sidibe. Can the MEC respond whether are these part of the are they part of the strategy to also increase participation by our people in the IT space that is currently happening with the rollout of Vumatel in our township, which has created a number of challenges for us? Thank you.
Honourable members, what I will request members to do is to mention the rule under which they want to speak. I'm sure it's for the last time, Honourable Mpisi and Honourable Badenhorst, I allow you to speak without mentioning.
Apologies, Speaker. Apologies.
And can you both lower your hands because you have spoken already? Let me allow the MEC.
Thank you very much once again, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to Member Badenhorst and PC, and also to Member Ncube. Indeed, we will make available any additional information that the member requires. There is no intention to marginalize any community in the province of Gauteng, so there certainly is no program to marginalize the people of Easterras. The township economic revitalization and development initiatives will be applicable in all townships, and we will work with enterprises across the province. With regards to the fiber rollout, I cannot comment specifically on the Vumatel matter that Honourable Mpisi is raising. Safe to say that we have established an action lab with the industry on the broadband matter, working together with the Department of eGov, the Department of Economic Development, and the private sector investors to ensure broadband access and addressing matters of way leaves and so on, together with the municipalities. We had a successful engagement with our municipalities and the private sector around ensuring broadband access to the townships. And this, I believe, will help address the challenges that have been faced by municipalities with regards to way leaves and the digging of roads without approval. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honourable members.
The next question, Honourable Bloom to MEC for Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, to the MEC for Health Further to the reply to question 4.HL009, will the MEC please indicate, 1, what was the outcome of the interviews for the head of department position in April this year? Why was a permanent head of department not appointed after these interviews? Why was a second acting head of department appointed? 4, what process is being followed to appoint a permanent head of department? And 5, what accounts for any delays in this matter? Thank you.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to all the honorable members in the House. Thank you, Honorable Bloom, for the questions. Response to question 1. The position for the head of the department, Gauteng Department of Health, was initially advertised in the national media on the 21st of March 2021 with a closing date of the 6th of April 2021. A total number of 49 applications were received. Due to the limited number of qualifying applicants with the requisite experience, no interviews were conducted, and a decision was taken to expand the recruitment process, and the position was re-advertised in the national media on the 22nd of June 2021 with a closing date of 9 July 2021. Response to question 2. Due to the limited number of qualifying applicants with the requisite experience, no interviews were conducted, hence no head of department was appointed. Response to question 3. The Premier and the Acting Minister of Health has reached an agreement to second Dr. Sibongile Zungu from the National Department of Health to the Gauteng Department of Health as an acting head of the department for a period of 12 months with effect from the 1st of July 2021. Her secondment was based on her wealth of knowledge, experience, expertise, exposure, and qualifications that position her well to fulfill the mandate of the Gauteng provincial government of improving the health services to all citizens. Response to question 4, which talks to the process. A position of head of department falls within the senior management service SMS category, and to ensure compliance with the Public Service Act 1994 and the Public Service Regulation of 2016, the position must be advertised in the national media, public service vacancy circular, and on the GPG e-recruitment portal. The Premier, as the accountable executive authority for heads of departments, will appoint a selection committee who will conduct the shortlisting after the closing date of the advertisement, conduct interviews, and make recommendations to the Premier for the appointment of a suitable candidate. The applications received by closing date are screened in line with the requirements of the position as outlined in the advertisement. Thereafter, the executive summary of applications of candidates who meet the minimum requirements is compiled and submitted to the MEC and the selection committee for shortlisting. The proposed list of the shortlisted candidates is submitted to the Premier for approval, whereafter the interviews will take place. Following the interviews, the top 2 candidates are subjected to a competency assessment exercise in line with the requirements of the Department of Public Service and Administration, background and verification checks, reference checks, and security vetting at the level of top secret. Response to question 5. As alluded in the response to question 2 above, the delays was due to the limited number of qualifying applicants with the requisite experience that could be identified for interviews. And in the interim, the position has been filled on an acting position as Dr. Zungu was seconded from the 1st of July to act in that position and for 12 months. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Bloom. Do you have any supplementary question or a short remark?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, it's quite a comment that it's such a hot seat that very few, it seems that we didn't get properly qualified people to apply, and that's very disappointing. I wish the acting head, Dr. Zungu, all the best in this very challenging post for the next the year that she's in it. But could I just clarify with the Honourable MEC? She said that the post was re-advertised 22nd of June and that positions closed on the 9th of July. Now, obviously, Dr. Zungu was appointed on the 1st of July. Or did we get any suitable people from that the second advertisement? And are those the people that are now going to go through the process? So then they can only be appointed after Dr. Zungu's term of office comes to an end. I'm just a bit concerned about this. Just to clarify, are we going to have to re-advertise again? And if a suitable person is found, say in the next 3 months, they can't take up the job because Dr. Zungu's got a 1-year contract. Is there not going to be a conflict here? We should really get a permanent head of department as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Honourable, let me see.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Bloom, as you know that filling a vacancy for an HOD, as you correctly said, is not easy. We are still waiting for the summary that still needs to be done. But considering the fact that Dr. Zungu is a secondment, if an appointment can be done earlier, we can be able to, I think the Premier can be able to request the minister to withdraw that. But as for now, we are still waiting for that summary to check whether we do have a suitable candidates. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, MEC. The next question is Honourable Ntsakhe to MEC for Roads and Transport.
Thank you, Speaker. With regards to the provincialization of license renewals, www.online.natlys.gov.za, what is the average time that a resident will wait to get a slot when they book? What is the longest distance traveled by residents to get to the license department when the slot is available? What is the longest period for residents have to wait to be assisted at the licensing department with an appointment? How many complaints have been received by the department with regards to this booking system? And what plans are there to make this system more efficient? And when will this plan commence? Thank you.
Honourable MEC. Honourable MEC.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. With your permission, can I optimize the connectivity by not showing the using the camera for the purpose of
continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now let me start by greeting the House, yourself, the Premier, MECs, the Chief Whip, and honourable members. Happy Women's Month. Let me also acknowledge the honourable member for raising the question. Honourable Speaker, I might be long on this matter. It will be for the first time I answer a question in a long way, so you'll forgive me. Let me start by saying that the issue of DLTCs and the challenges in the province are quite serious, and I would need to just mention some of them so that the rest of the reply can make much more better sense. The first point being that honourable member is talking about provincialization of DLTCs. In actual fact, statistical data and information indicates that the first big problem we have is that out of the total number of 40 DLTCs that we are running in the province, about only 6 of them are run by the provincial government. And in that 6, with the recent spate of looting and destruction, we have got -1 run by the province, which is Kliptown. And all the 34 municipalities, 34 DLTCs are run by municipalities. And having mentioned that point just as a clarification, I want to indicate that this issue of deprovincialization of DLTCs has an impact on overall coordination and integration of services. So we are having in principle operational disintegration and fragmentation because the best practices in municipalities, efficiencies, inefficiencies are at different levels. The DLTCs are not run the same. The level of investment by municipalities in these DLTCs and just how they run and manage them is affected by that fragmentation. And given our constitution on the spheres of government, we also have to be circumspect and be very careful on how do we interact with municipalities to bring much more better efficiencies and coordination to these DLTCs. DLTCs are important to drive economic development, to drive the automotive sector, sales of cars, job creation for the youth, for freight, truck driving, for different driving. So driving schools are very much important and are a strategic pillar and support of the economy. And they're also a very important source of revenue for the province and for the municipalities. So this function is quite critical and very much important, but unfortunately it is highly fragmented. The other big problem we are sitting with is that whilst population has been growing in Gauteng, there's historically, over the past years, being complete, massive growth in population, but the footprint or the total number of DLTC has not increased, which also has an important bearing on demand and supply and the capacity that is existing versus the massive population growth. So we are sitting with very little supply side or state capacity versus the huge demand for these services influenced by population dynamics. The other issue that I just want to indicate is that we also have some of the operations run by National. The online booking system, which sits with, which is part of the eNATI system, is run by the Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, with little space for provinces. We have got machines that are used to do eyesight, to test the eyes, to check fingerprint verification. Those machines are called live enrollment units, LEUs. Those machines sit at National. If they are broken, have to be serviced, we depend on National for that. And these machines are old technology, and the parts to maintain and sustain them apparently are no longer in use. And it's quite difficult to service these LEUs machines. So given that, honorable members, I just want to indicate that this is the nature of a problem in brief. There are still more complicated issues. Some of them relate to the high rate of COVID-19 impact on operations, particularly the number of people that could be available to work, and
just that on its own is also affecting the rate at which we'll be able to provide services to the people. Now, so with respect to the average time that it takes, this will also have to be understood that it varies at different levels. So it can take any time, but mostly to make a booking, it can take 2 to 25 minutes. And if it's a renewal, it can take about 2 minutes. But this is purely operating the system to make a booking. It is not related to whether the slots are available or not. And I must clarify that issue. So holding all other factors constant, as good economists will say, it will take you that time. And there are many factors, about 5 of them. The honorable member will see them in the question. I've stated in detail those issues why there could be problems. And it relates to the technology and its availability and consistency in providing service. Now, the second question, which is really about how long it takes for a person to, the longest distance. Given the problems that I've eloquently elaborated upon, when you get a booking, honorable members, you can be given a slot anywhere in the province. So a person in Hammanskraal can get a slot in Sedibeng, a person in Devon can get a slot in Merafong. So within the radius of the province, that is the distance you might have to travel because slots are made available to people where they are available on the system. But in all fairness, every residential area, in most areas, you shouldn't travel more than 30 minutes at most to reach a DLTC. So DLTCs are available fairly, although as I've said, the population dynamics challenges us. That is why with the eNATIS system, they allocate slots where you find it. So depending on public transport usage or your own private vehicle, you could travel for a very long distance. Now, how long does it take to get a service? You can be early 30 minutes, you can leave, you can be there 120 minutes, and you can take an average of the center of the middle between 30 and 120. So the shortest 30 minutes, the longest 120, and there's an average in between. And the factors that causes that, I have clearly enumerated on them. Do we have a system for recording complaints? Complaints do reach us, but we have also asked the Road Traffic Management Corporation for a proper client interfacing system in which we could have a proper record and data about complaints. But currently, as I said, these are run at different level. The data that is available is highly fragmented. And that's why we're looking for a centralized system to record the number of complaints. The last part, which deals with, so what are the interventions that we are putting in place to address this issue, which is the last part of the question. The very first one is that we believe that we must increase the footprint of DLTs that we have. This is to match demand population dynamics with the capacity to respond to the service. We do not intend to take DLTCs away from municipalities because that is going to cause much more complicated issues around what you do with labor, trade unions, so it could have difficulties. So what we want to do is increase from 5, okay, now 5, but actually 6, number of DLTCs we have at a provincial level. We are partnering with the RTMC, Gautrain Management Agency, GMA, and of course, we are also hearing that the post office is willing to make some of its offices available to us. We want to create a new generation of DLTCs, which should be able to then help address the issue of the number of slots, because with the current 40, there's no way that you can be able to meet the capacity that is there. So we are looking at these partnerships to build a new generation of fleet of DLTCs, which we believe will be run on principles of efficiency and effectiveness to address this issue. Where are we with that matter currently? What is the status? We have been sorting out legal matters, and we have completed seeking legal opinions so that we do not issue licenses to people by facilities that are not consistent with the law. So we have dealt with the legal matters. And at this moment, we are finalizing gazetting. We'll be bringing to the legislature gazetting of the role of RTMC and Gautrain Management Agency to help us build a completely new generation of DLT. So the first issue is to increase our footprint. The second point, and this is not a long-term matter, Honorable Member, we're doing it right away right now. The gazetting should be happening before the end of August. And then once the gazetting is done, then they are able to set up, and they are not going to wait. There are facilities and structures and buildings that are ready. They just need operational resources to get them up and running. The second point that we are dealing with is the problem of corruption. In the entire history of DLTCs, there was never a forensic investigation into acts of corruption amidst the huge number of complaints that have been and allegations that have been made about corruption in DLTCs. So we have appointed already last month, we have appointed a forensic investigation company to look into these allegations of corruption, because we also believe the reason why there are no slots is also because of manipulation of the very limited resources and capacity that we have by corrupt syndicates and network. And the company has started work. We will be getting preliminary reports on the quick wins and the low-hanging fruits as to how do we crack corruption to make more slots available. The third intervention that we are looking at is that we are partnering with the CSIR, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, was partnering with AMSCO. They are also helping us, given their knowledge of this environment. Remember, there are roles of driving schools, the role that they play. So we are looking at overhauling this function with the support of CSIR and AMSCO's wing, which is called Girotech. So that part, we are getting a report on it this week on the proposal that they are putting on the table, and we will make public announcement. The other issue that we are looking at, we have agreed with the members of mayoral committees in the municipalities that we are rolling out a system of queue management capability. And that system is working very well in the provincial DLTCs, only the 5 of them. We are rolling it out to all the 34. We will roll out this system, and the work has started. It actually helps us to deal with corruption, but to manage queues better and to be able to answer some of the questions that you are asking us to do. So that process is on. And the last point here, I just want to mention to the honorable members and the members that we are taking this function quite serious. And just before end of August, together with our partners, RTMC, Gautrain Management Agency, AMSCO, CSIR, we will make an announcement working with the National Department of Transport. We will make an announcement on how we are going to turn around this function, giving timelines, what's going to happen when, and where we are with corruption, and how is corruption impacting the environment with respect to inefficiencies in the system. So, honorable member, that is in brief. I hope I've been very brief on a very complex matter that is managed across 3 spheres of government and having a devastating impact on operational efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MEC. Your brief was long. Honorable Ntsege, do you have any supplementary question or short remark?
I've got a short remark, Speaker. First, I want to thank the MEC for a comprehensive response. I do want to use myself an example to say that my license expired in October. I only managed to get a slot in July. The first slot that was available to me was in Carltonville, which was 100 kilometers away. And I wonder if somebody who's poor would drive from Kempton Park to Carltonville, sometimes not having a car, but needing a license. Finally, I got a slot in Nigel, which is 48 kilometers away from me again. So my recommendation for MEC is also to consider devolution of the booking system so that residents are matched to areas where they live. This will make it more affordable and easier for residents to renew their licenses. So if that can also be incorporated into your plans, please, MEC, just think about our poor people, because currently I think that the booking slot system is not pro-poor for the residents of Gauteng. Thank you very much.
Honorable Badenhorst.
Thank you, Speaker. MEC, that's only one.
Your rule, Badenhorst.
Sorry, Speaker.
Honorable Badenhorst, your rule.
Yeah, I'm on. Can you hear
I'm
me,
saying,
Speaker?
what is your rule? I hear you, but what is your rule?
I'm standing on Rule 137, Speaker. Did you hear me, Speaker?
137
Yes.
is not relevant for this session. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I warn you in the previous.
Okay, Speaker. I'll put my question in the next thing then.
Thank you. Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just want to share the frustration of the Honorable Member that actually that issue she is raising is true, that people are given slots at far places and some of them end up, not taking up those. People are working and so on and so on. So we understand that issue. I also just want to add that, and that is why we need to increase the footprint, make more facilities available. We are also considering mobile solutions. There was also a technical legal glitch on that, whether people can get licenses on a mobile facility. That has been clarified and corrected as well. I just want to also say, I have raised an issue with RTMC, and I strongly believe in this issue, that if on eNaTIS we know when our licenses of people expiring, and we have the details of these people, their cell numbers and their records, in principle, we shouldn't have people booking for slots because people want to comply with the law, but ourselves as the state that wants people to comply with our laws, we're making it difficult for people to comply with the laws. So we have agreed that in principle, we must allocate people slots without them applying because the data is there. And we did a pilot of this in what we call a priority booking list system. But unfortunately, Speaker, for us, people were not responding. The response level out of every 100 slots we issue, you'll get 2-3 responses. We took media adverts on radios, everywhere, newspapers, to say when you get a message that says we have a slot, it is not fake news or it's not criminals. It's a legit coming from Road Traffic Management Corporation, but we are not winning. But however, that system of priority booking is still running, and we will be looking at how to make it efficient and how to improve it. But currently the response level is too low. We do give people, and maybe that's because we give them very far, but the risk of not taking a booking because it is far can be much more severe if you don't take it, considering that you can make an accident. That could be very severe, the consequences of avoiding an inconvenience of long distance traveling versus what could happen and law enforcement. So we're pleading with people that when you are given the slots, do everything possible to go and, to honor those slots, because the implications of that can be devastating. However, we are looking at this issue of making bookings to people in areas close by so that we can deal with the issues of the poor, of the poorest, and even making sure that we don't add an unnecessary cost to companies, to households, to people to go and renew their driver licenses or get licenses. So with that, we are looking into the matter, and we will turn around this function very soon. This thing will be a thing of the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MEC. The next question, Honorable Shackleton to MEC for Community Safety.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity, through you, to the Honourable MEC for Community Safety. Regarding the civil unrest in the province, could the MEC please indicate, 1, how many people were arrested in Gauteng during the spate of looting and civil unrest? 2, how many have been referred for prosecution? 3, how many escaped police custody either during or after being arrested? 4, what steps will be taken to improve police intelligence and capacity to act to prevent further looting and destruction in our province? And 5, what led to the failure of police in cases where they were unable to prevent shopping malls being burnt down? Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the question, Honorable Member. In responding to question number 1, to date, we've got 1,947 arrests that have been made. So we're talking present tense, Honorable Speaker. And on question number 2, how many so far have been referred for prosecution? About 1,224 dockets have been prepared and have been referred for prosecution, because others are still under investigation. On question number 3, how many escaped police custody? No incidences of escaping from lawful custody. Underline the words lawful custody. So meaning those that have been arrested and been put in the cells as they prepare them for court appearance. On question number 4, on steps to be taken, the response, my apology, the South African Police Services, Gauteng developed a response and contingency plan based on the 5-pillar approach. First one being intelligence gathering, analysis, and coordination. The second one being proactive approach and high visibility. Pillar 3, combat approach, which is also includes rapid response. Pillar 4, on reactive approach, it includes detection, tracking, and case management. Pillar number 5, communication and liaison. On question number 5, what led to the failure of the police in cases where they were unable to prevent shopping malls being burnt down? The volumes of people looting were vastly outnumbering the SAPS personnel and the law enforcement agencies on duty. And simultaneous attacks were also launched throughout in those, especially in the 2 metros. The first respondents from the police stations did not have the correct equipment to disperse the crowds, and they also, remember, they are not properly trained to deal with crowd management, and also to deal with sporadic protests. As reinforcements were called, pressure was then placed on public order policing also to manage the sporadic protest after it already gained momentum. Utilizing firearms against looters will have led to the loss of lives of looters, and the law enforcement agencies had to react to incidences of looting and had to apply the rule of situational appropriateness, meaning the actions of the members were that they must respond to the threat and should not escalate that threat into a situation whereby there is a loss of life. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Shackleton, do you have a supplementary question or short remark?
Yes, please, Madam Speaker, a supplementary question with your indulgence. Looking at the MEC's answers to question 5, regarding improper training to deal with crowd management, applying situational appropriateness, seemingly leading to the burning down of shopping malls. My question is one which I believe every resident of Gauteng wants an answer to, regardless of political affiliation, race, or economic background, is how likely is the recent civil unrest to repeat itself in the province of Gauteng?
Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. There's the ongoing crime intelligence detection and also ongoing investigations. They are the ones that are actually helping the police to be able to be better prepared. So I believe, Member Shackleton, that information relies mainly from crime intelligence and getting information from people. We keep on getting notices and we keep on getting posters that indicate that there might be other unrest coming, and police are putting together mitigating responses in managing that situation. Thank you very much.
Next question, Honorable Bloom to MEC for Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Regarding the Sharp Johannesburg Academic Hospital, will the MEC please indicate, 1, how many patients are presently at this hospital? 2, what is the daily average number of outpatients at present? 3, what was the daily average number of outpatients before the fire on 16 April? 4, which departments have not yet opened at the hospital? And 5, which departments are still expected to be closed until the end of this year? Thank you.
Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to Honorable Bloom for the questions. Response to question 1, 535 patients as at the 3rd of August 2021. Response to question 2, the daily average number of outpatients at present is 381 since the 1st of July 2021. Response to question 3, the daily average number of outpatients before the fire on the 16th of April 2021 is 2,344. Response to question 4, which departments have not yet opened at the hospital? At the time of reporting, there are some departments that have not opened at all, including some of the surgical and medical specialties, psychiatry, accident and emergency, including emergency medicines, trauma unit, maternity emergencies, pediatric emergencies. Majority of the outpatients services are not yet opened. These services are continuing at out-cluster hospitals and are being run by CMJA staff, including doctors and nurses. We have also provided equipment and medication to the different facilities to ensure that services continue. Services that have opened in the hospital are only partially functional and not operating at full capacity. Response to question 5, at this stage, we cannot confirm as this will be dependent on the compliant work being conducted by Gauteng Department of Infrastructure. However, we can confirm that the accident and emergency and psychiatry will not open before the end of the year. Madam Speaker, simply because these wards are based just on top of where the fire was started. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Bloom, do you have a supplementary question or a short remark?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, it's very disturbing that before the fire there were over 800 patients in the hospital. Now there's just 535, and the outpatients, as the MEC has said, is been hit particularly hard. They had 2,344, and now it's a mere 381. And I mean, there's a large number of departments that are not operational, and I really just wish to urge that everything is done to get this hospital operating as soon as possible. I hear the MEC that, Honourable MEC, that equipment and staff have been seconded to other hospitals, but these other hospitals are totally overcrowded, and that's why we have they had that terrible incident at the Helen Joseph Hospital with a young lady dying in her wheelchair after being unattended for more than a day. It's because these hospitals are overcrowded. They can't cope. The casualties, people stay in the casualty for days before they get transferred to a ward. So I think this just emphasizes the need to reopen the Sharp and Khayelitsha Hospital as soon as possible. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I rise on Rule 134, subsection 7. It's Member Mabala.
Honourable Mabala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, the issue of Charlotte Maxeke is actually really concerning because I understand from the Office of the MEC for Infrastructure Development that Charlotte Maxeke, it will take up to 2 years to get back to its former self. But now, the thing is, you find that Helen Joseph becomes overcrowded, whereby even this affects the nurses at Helen Joseph Hospital. So my concern, MEC, for health, Mamokgethi, is that we know that you know there was a lot of money that was spent on Anglo Ashanti Hospital, and maybe if you can look at moving some patients, especially COVID-19 patients from Helen Joseph to Anglo Ashanti, so that you know you can create space for patients at Helen Joseph, because this thing is getting out of hand, and we're not going to sit back and relax and say we're going to wait for 2 years for Charlotte Maxeke to get fixed, while we can see that already there is a problem at Helen Joseph. Thank you.
Honourable Mabala, it's not allowed to call a member by her first name. In future, please.
Okay, I
careful.
withdraw. It's Honourable.
Just say member if you
Honourable
forget.
Mokgethi.
Thank you. Honourable MC.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Bloom, I think you have realized that we are trying our best to make sure that the hospital, the part of the hospital that is usable, we are utilizing it to its maximum capacity. And with regard to the pressure at Charlotte, we are trying to relieve that pressure from Charlotte, because we have opened 489 beds at Charlotte to make sure that we relieve that pressure from Helen Joseph. And then with regard to Member Mabala, we are noting that because Helen Joseph, we really appreciate the fact that we have COVID patients, but we also make provision for them at Charlotte, and we have given them equipment and staff that comes from Charlotte Maxeke. So, but we're noting the comments of down referring patients. But as we can see that our numbers are also getting down, we hope that the pressure will be relieved from most of our facilities. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, honourable members. This brings us to the end of our session today. I just want to remind all members about the training that will take place on Thursday and Friday, which is the 12th and the 13th of August. Please ensure that you attend, because we'll be able to receive more information about the benefits of members. But it will be held in the morning for the next 2 days. I think it's quarter to 9 to 12, 12 past 12 for both days. Thank you very much. Our next sitting will be held on the 24th of August at 10 hours sharp. Thank you very much. The House is adjourned.
Thank you, Speaker. Bye.
Bye, Honorable
Thank you,
Members.
Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.